this episode, we'll talk about the past, present, and the future of AI in healthcare, popular in the medical community, we're not there yet narrative. We'll deep dive into technical details and even open the door to iFrame.AI architecture. Please welcome Vlad Panin, CEO at iFrame.AI.
Thank you.
So iFrame.AI is part AI agent, part search engine. How does it work, and what role does each part of that, the search and LLM, RAG, whatever you use, play in serving the final result?
iFrame is a knowledge engine, fine-tuned to discover what matters for every individual person. Knowledge is everywhere. It doesn't begin in Google or media aggregators like so-called answers engines. It starts with a human's ideas. There are communications with the world and systematic data processing work. Our goal is to help every person discover what matters to them specifically.
Let me do this. I'll share the screen so you can show how it works.
Okay, I'll be glad to. All right, So let me try the thing that will seem like joke for most of people who are watching us, like that there is medical code for the use cases for patients who happen to be inside the airplane jet like engine stuff twice. So let me check what I remember. Okay. So here's what we see. The iFrame.AI and it identifies that we want something related to insurance reimbursement. So now it will try to go through every single library that might be related to this use case, and you see the progress here. In that, it will give us, here it is, like the complete summary of what should we focus on when like managing this claim, and what kind of codes, medical codes, we should apply. Something that typically takes half an hour, sometimes days, we have in just a few seconds.
Now, iFrame.AI is trying to consolidate all real-time information from the official sources, right?
Yeah, so that's exactly what a frame knowledge engine does. We have 2 seconds maximum to scan terabytes of our proprietary data sets, the entire so-called trusted web, and provide you with 100% accurate answers with regard to individual person nuances like possible connection to electronic healthcare records to identify some medical history nuances, etc.
But I don't know how much of that is a UI problem of designing custom UIs for a characteristic set of questions. I think at the end of the day, Wikipedia kind of UI is good enough if the raw content that's provided, the reasoning text, is relevant and accurate. Well, let's say if I ask how to get reimbursement from my recent visit to the hospital with my insurance, it would be nice to have a few more tips. I mean, little extra information about limitations, potential gaps in the claim, etc.
Yeah, exactly. But you would want the case applicable outcome, not just a bunch of smart text. When you ask about insurance, iFrame will use our always up-to-date insurance policies to make sure its advice is accurate. But that's not all. You can securely connect your medical history in one click, and iFrame will identify some point that will potentially save you lots of money. Even a medical assistant in the hospital can't really go through thousands of records in a dozen tabs. Like Stanford research shows that if I remember correctly, the average doctor goes through 4,000, makes 4,000 clicks in the software within the shift. So that's a huge number. iFrame does it in sub-second. So that is why we put the label near the search, which says discover what matters. We really mean it. What iFrame also does is scan all official data sets and clinical materials to give you a tip answering very personalized questions about, let's say, post-surgery symptoms, or providing other individualized tips. Otherwise, requiring lots of communication with some very tired person from hotline, possibly very often in low compensated call center with some predefined text they just will share with you via the phone.
Let me zoom out once again. Ask similar, I guess, question that we started with. Can iFrame.AI take on and beat Google or modern AI answer engine in search?
Well, we are far from the idea of competing with search engines. One of the reasons people love iFrame Healthcare Knowledge Engine is because it kills uncertainty by being the best verified and individualized knowledge provider existing. When people leave the hospital after the surgery and have weird symptoms, I mean, weird for a healthy person, haven't iFrame that immediately gives a perspective on what exactly is happening? It's just a great thing to have. iFrame.AI will use exactly the same information the hospital's call center will provide by phone, except you just don't wait for hours to talk to some potentially tired person. And sometimes people just have no idea if their insurance will cover procedures. And iFrame, which immediately gives tips on like how to make it more successful, potentially saves patients from bankruptcy. And in the US, it's it happens.
But what about Bing, Copilot, Google, and others?
Well, Google is an extremely powerful source of recent patents and other relevant information. We use some of their API in the model's internal thinking process, but it is also not. But it also has a lot of marketing. I should use this word, like marketing garbage generated by countless like garbage of search engine optimization guys, salespeople. That's okay for general like internet in our reality, but it's not as good for healthcare knowledge engine. So we have powerful algorithms in place to filter that nonsense out. It comes with necessity of maintaining our proprietary data crawling system, but it's an like inevitable necessity in discovering what matters. And it's partially what makes us really unique in terms of like deep tech we provide.
Okay, what about ChatGPT and similar AI products?
As far as I know, Microsoft Bing is a direct wrapper over ChatGPT models. There are a few other startups trying to replace Google. Some AI rubbers even raised $500 million a few weeks ago. Maybe you already heard about that. Fortunately, they are in a very different business.
It seems to me if iFrame.AI compete with these startups directly.
Well, in fact, the startup I mentioned is a media aggregator trying to trick Google search with AI-generated content to gain enormous organic traffic, which they try to hold with a free access to expensive OpenAI API, kind of like models. It's completely different audience, almost not trespassing the iFrame knowledge engine community, and we really try to build the strong community of healthcare providers and patients in need of this knowledge. So it's pretty different. And to your previous question, I don't see how they will beat Google, but it's a great asset for early investors, especially.
Do you think it's speculation?
Well, Karl Marx will say so, but we are not communists. They have the right to do business until it's legal. So far, guys have raised over 900 million with valuation around 9 billion, riding on the LLM hype while having, by my calculations, less than 5 million monthly recurring revenue or in this range. Oh, as far as I see this, they made this overcapitalization jump to buy real revenue generating startups to hit IPO bells before they run out of cash. It's hard to imagine how they will raise more. But what can I say? We live in the medical times when ex-Google employees claiming they replace blue text links with green citation links can raise almost $1 billion. There are lots of smart people involved, and I hope they will consolidate enough profitable startups before I go. Otherwise, it will cause great damage to the Silicon Valley reputation and community. Weeks or even days after the bell rings in the state office. So yeah, I hope they will figure it out.
So let's maybe talk about the business model of search engines we know today. One of the biggest ways to make money is by showing ads, obvious. Can you explain your understanding of that business model and why that does work for iFrame AI?
The ads model as we know it is not so different from the like some billboard near your office. You have a space to display something, the traffic, people who are just circling around, and someone who wishes to pay you for showing their information on your monitor views. Like so, with the Google, Bing, and others, this process is very, very efficient since you pay for so-called eyeballs. As I don't like this word, but that's how marketologists sometimes call it. Like they sell you these eyeballs who are highly likely interested in your commercial offer. Uh, AI summaries of the web content do not have an efficient user interface to show such commercials. So in the end of the day, they have two options: to display ads in a classic manner, I mean web banners labeled as ads, or something like individual startups experiment with, including paid content in the natural AI response with very, very vague labeling of paid offers. Both paths are purely tested at the large scale, and we're really just about to see how they transform. I would prefer to I would prefer it to happen before such companies become public market assets, but we'll see.
So what monetization do you, iFrame, plan to implement?
Yeah, so we build our commercial strategy around one simple question: what value does a frame answer deliver to each individual user per each individual request response session? So, for example, a private practicing physician asks iFrame AI why the claim for like 90K uh, like was denied or put into pending mode. Our AI interrupting the algorithm will use one of like thousands, hundreds of thousands fine-tuned knowledge hats that will do the medical coding, inference assessment, claim clinical cross-referencing audit with the best precision possible, and will use fresh data from mostly government-provided resources in our proprietary data sets. The output in the form of accurate reasoning, links to resources, and other tips will be provided in seconds for like 100 times less cost, sometimes 1,000 times less cost than the doctor would pay to a professional revenue cycle management vendor, so-called like RCM vendors or dealing houses or clearing houses. So each piece of knowledge hat we use for specific processing will be transparently shown in a monthly billing report. In my opinion, that's the best approach to deliver our value to people for fair price, since they clearly see the value and multiplicator of the amounts of money they really saved.
So no ads and paid recommendations.
Indeed. Indeed.
What do you think about the recent buzz about Sam Altman and OpenAI's controversy overall?
Look, I have a huge respect for OpenAI team. Most of the innovation we know about generative pre-trained transformer has a direct relation to Elias's cover research, and I think Sam Altman also played some role in popularizing generative AI in masses, not without like million investments from Elon Musk's like YC kind of like community financial support, of course. But nonetheless, they opened a new chapter in the productivity revolution, and they already become a part of the world's history. There's no doubt about that.
The US audience might be surprised, but your materials about LM are part of the curriculum popular Ukrainian polytechnic universities, and you also wrote a book about healthcare administration with AI. When did you discover the pre-trained transformer for yourself, and how surprising was ChatGPT for you?
Look, I have worked in the field since 2008, but never considered myself as an academic person. I'm glad to share what I can with the new generation of scientists and potential innovators, entrepreneurs. But talking about the revolution of these models and the surprise of ChatGPT for our community, it all started much earlier than 2022. It started with the work of Yeshua Benjo and his students from Belarus, Dmitry Bogdanov, like who literally introduced so-called soft attention mechanism to the world. This concept was, to say, refreshing because it shifted AI from processing data sequentially, like with the so-called RNNs, to being able to focus on the most relevant parts of data all at once. Then we had another leap for the deep convolutional neural network, also known as WaveNet. The guys introduced masking, which drastically reduced GPU usage per operation. It was a huge leap in terms of like efficiency of the calculations. And the last significant academic breakthrough was made by Google's Transformer 8, including Ukrainian Ilya Polosukhin. They've published now famous paper, Attention is all you need. Basically, they created the transformer that enables ChatGPT. Then evolved from OpenAI, like Ilya Sutskever and Alec Redford, used dozens of millions investments, and probably they were only company who can do that in terms of like financial standpoint, and they basically created the project called GPT-1, and eventually they scaled it to GPT-3. So using massive data sets and training techniques like reinforcement learning with human feedback and some potentially proprietary techniques they just keep in this black box still today. Everything we know today is basically incremental improvements that guys from Yeshua's team and Google DeepMind team have discovered earlier. The commercialization of ChatGPT and the strange deal with Microsoft, that's for sure was much bigger surprise than the technology itself. That's for sure.
Then how do you differentiate from AI in these circumstances when technological progress stopped? What makes you an iFrame unique?
First and foremost, iFrame is a complex knowledge engine, not just a set of pre-trained weights processed with bundled 3 to 4 inference scripts that comes with let's say Llama 3.1, which is amazing model, but it's not what you need for high precision, high knowledge accuracy. So obviously I can't disclose full architecture of iFrame.AI, but for a helicopter view, we use a combination of patch-headed method mapping technologies, distilled neural layers in our core LLM, and thousands and hundreds of thousands of micro models similar to the so-called Phi models architecture, the concept of which was first described in a STAR paper, and it's open to everyone, but we use it with a few critical accusations, of course. We also have formal partnership agreements with the universities and also large corporations, enabling us to optimize the R&D costs for this incremental improvements far better than the total majority of Silicon Valley companies. However, like what truly makes us unique is our careful work with clinically accurate information providers. To be honest, that that's kind of like forms our full cycle community. In the end of the day, those who start using iFrame become the most active contributors to the community, and vice versa. That's an interesting business phenomenon, surprisingly similar to what happens inside the Airbnb community I was part of for a while.
I
Yeah.
love the tangents we took, but let's return to the beginnings. What's the origin story of iFrame AI?
Oh, I was afraid you would not ask. So, as you know, I'm originally from Ukraine. The art company started in 2008, hired over 600 engineers in our best days. And in 2014-16, we were fortunate to work on eHealth project. That was one of the largest United Nations backed healthcare digitalization initiatives in history, now serving like dozens of millions daily active users and connecting literally all nationwide like healthcare providers, including like private practice doctors and pharmacies, like all in one single system. That was very, very large project. And when the war started, we lost lots of our Western clients, and priorities were basically shifting towards like as simple as to survive. I evacuated those engineers who were willing to be evacuated because some have families, elderly parents, etc. So kids they cannot live. That was a tough period. We evacuated part of the team to Europe and the United States. And after a short period of, let's say, acclimatization, we started to build a product driven business in the Silicon Valley. It all started with our internal tool, iCorals, which stands for Basic Logical Operators, PIPLOR for else. It was ready to go apps prototyping tool, kind of like we use internally for showcases, but also as ERP, CRM system, and even sometimes HR tool inside the company. So imagine like marrying Zapier and Airtable with an optimal kind of like apps-like interface with the templates, like blocks, pretty similar to Bubble.io. That's what we have internally, and but very nice product. Back then, I realized that whatever you built in your life, if it didn't happen in California or New York, means nothing to the US venture capital. So uh, surely the failed fundraising and quickly realized that the AI project with our university's collaboration advantage and the background in United Nations eHealth project will be way more interesting for a local ecosystem, both like for clients and for PCs as well, which is critical. It's just true to fit into this ecosystem. So that's how we launched the most accurate medical coding AI in the US. And then after hitting over 30K users and a few venture capital investors, we allowed ourselves to open wings a little bit more wider and go for truly worthy mission of building a healthcare knowledge engine, which is a huge mission. I will always be grateful to Alto Capital for believing in me. Their channel partner is an extraordinary person who helped a lot with access to enterprises, besides the investments, obviously. But and I'm also proud of our advisory board members like Ben Lindquist from Stanford Medicine, Christian Schultz, one of the best cardiovascular surgeons in the US, and many others who make us better every single day. Huge thanks to all of you.
Speaking of experts, where's the room for a frame hallucination to CPN?
Well, that's $1 trillion question. And the way we think about it is that we train our core model to search for knowledge in our proprietary data sets, as well as credible sources like US Value Set, authority-centered data sets, and only then generate response. So limiting the response to the retrieved knowledge only. That's how we make sure that the model is playing the reasoning role, but not replacing knowledge with a fake data. It might have inside the let's say the neural layers somehow start from pre-training process. So this happens all the time in so-called answer engines that operate with a billion times more data points, contradicting each other. Like, for example, jokes from Super Bowl commercials, or commentators or YouTube prompters, might end up in the same reasoning chain in general answer engine. I will not say their names, but not because they are bad, but because these context snippets are relevant semantically. So, and you cannot distinguish that semantically. So, but that's how RAG works. We are way more careful with moderation. And as I said, iFrame reasoning is always grounded in the retrieved knowledge, which is unique and heavily filtered in a good sense, of course, per each request response session.
If you just put on your visionary hat and look into the future, what do you think the future of search looks like? And maybe even let's go with the bigger both hat question. What does the future of the internet looks like?
Look, things have been moving so fast in the recent years. Historically, people used the internet to fulfill curiosity. Most of our population cannot afford to fulfill in some other way, like in a material way. There is a huge obstacle to buying a ticket, finding some time, organizing visas, etc., to see the ladder, ticket mountains. But on Google, you can do it instantly. I think the immersing experience is that of the internet evolution overall, but not limited by that. Now, there is neural angle writing implanted in real human brains, enabling telepathic superpowers, literally. In combination with efficient interfaces, it will change every corner of the internet. As for iFrame, we're like that, old magical book of spells from an old movie that can share its own wisdom, answer with carefully processed questions, or even guide you when necessary. That's we really mean it. Like healthcare knowledge engine, it's about interface, of course, about UI. It's always about user experience. But the core idea is to process real, verified, accurate, 100% relevant information and provide this information to user when he or she really needs that.
But that's disaster recipe for the experts in the field who will still replaced by iFrame and other AI models. Don't you see it as a dangerous path for humanity?
I see improvement in AI reasoning and knowledge accuracy as something inevitable. The chain reaction has already been triggered, and some country or some student in some university or just a curious entrepreneur will push the limits of AI, which no doubt leads to shifts in the workforce. Our answer to this challenge is revenue sharing. I believe there is no other way. Those professionals who agree to contribute their research papers, courses, and other materials to iFrame are paid royalty. They can also transfer their accounts to their children, the children of their children, and so on. Look, the interface computer will be 1,000,000 times cheaper within the next few years, not mentioning the algorithms improvements we see. Google has already announced that it has successfully tested a quantum chip Willow, which can complete a computation in under 5 minutes, which would take a supercomputer 10 septillion years. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. Such advances will likely cause like disruption of our typical social and economic relations before everything stabilizes in the form of some global AI super economy, super AI super economy. I believe the iFrame revenue sharing model plays the role of social security buffer, securing not only experts, but most importantly, their motivation, their drive to improve technologies, including the AI. So, until, of course, the point it will not be necessary. But at that point, we'll likely have a very different world where you never need to work again to get treatment, like housing or food. I sincerely do believe in this bright future.
Thank you for this incredible conversation. Thank you for being an inspiration to me and to all generations after us who are out there and love building stuff because of products like iFrame.AI. And thank you for building that frame.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.